Welcome to It's Not Your Fault. I'm Yankee Jeff. We are all the INYF family. And tonight we're going to talk about a thing called grief and addiction. Grief and addiction is real. Okay, we're going to get into that pretty easily here because it's something we've all experienced one time or another, dealing with this horrible thing called addiction. Before we get into that, like describe the only content that the only price of admission of my videos is you like it. And hopefully subscribe and notification bell. So the next time we do a video, you guys are notified of it. But let's get into it. Grief and addiction is real. When you have somebody that's struggling with addiction or alcoholism, I just call it addiction because they're both addictions. When you have somebody struggling with addiction, they are not who they used to be. They almost disappear. The person you know and loved almost disappears and fades away. They become controlled by their addiction. And we lose them. We lose the person we once loved and knew that was always there. And we lose them. And we kind of feel like we're dealing with a loss of a loved one for real. And we are. There's no question. There's no question whatsoever. If you have ever dealt with this disease before, and obviously you have since you're watching my dumbass, but if you've ever had to deal with this before, you know that addiction takes away the light from your loved one's eyes, their spirit, their soul, and it makes them like a shell, their former person. They act like this somebody that's not there anymore. They act like somebody you didn't know, a totally different person, or they just disappear. You lose them. They fade away. They stop calling. They don't have anything to do with you. They don't return your texts. When you do see them, you don't recognize who they are because they're being held bound captive by their addiction. All right. This is a grief. You're going through a grief process. You have lost somebody, hopefully not permanently. And many of my fellow AL-ANON bandmates have unfortunately lost a loved one to this disease, but you're struggling with something that's similar, just not that same degree. But you're looking at somebody who's no longer part of your life, no longer part of anyone's life, really. And this is a grief. This is a grieving process you're going through. So if you kind of feel like you're dealing with something you've never had to deal with before, it's because of the fact that you are indeed dealing with a grief. You are dealing with a grief. You absolutely are. And this is why going to a favor or an Al-Anon meeting is so important to you. To be around, let me put it this way, whenever you lose somebody, a real loss, when you lose somebody they pass over and pass on, you go to grief counseling. And you go to grief counseling and you're sitting in a room with people that have all lost somebody the same way you have. Well, that's what Al-Anon is. That's what favor is. You're sitting in a room with people that are going through the same struggles you are. Nothing different. Same thing that you are. They're living with or have lived with a loved one who suffer from alcoholism or addiction. Okay? So if you are feeling that sense of longing, that sense of loss, that sense of grief, get yourself to a meeting. Okay? You can go and look online into your local area. There is a favor, or even more so, Al-Anon groups that have meetings every day, sometimes twice a day, no matter what town you live in. Okay, they're out there. If there's an AA group somewhere in your area, there's an Al-Anon group, people that are living with the alcoholic or addict. So keep that in mind, guys. If you're feeling a sense of grief, it's natural. You're allowed to feel that way because you are indeed suffering a loss. Okay, does that make sense? Don't feel like you're being alone. Don't feel like you're getting the loss to go. You do have a place to go. Get to that meeting. Get to that meeting as soon as possible and open up about how you're feeling and how you're feeling about the sense of loss you have, okay? So keep coming back. It works if you work it. Let it begin with you. By all means, say a prayer for the prayerless. Again, drop down the comments if you have any questions whatsoever, any comments that you want to ask me about. I don't give advice, but I can give you maybe some examples of what I did to help myself get through a similar situation you have, okay? But that's what we're here for. We're all seeking serenity, and hopefully one day we'll find it, maybe more so than others. All right, guys? Again, God bless. Have a good evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Grief is real, so you're not alone.